The ultimatum. The vast emptiness of space was shattered by the sudden appearance of an enormous fleet. Thousands of ships, each larger than the largest human vessel, materialized in perfect formation around Earth's orbit. Their sleek, otherworldly designs gleamed in the reflected sunlight, a testament to technology far beyond humanity's current capabilities. On Earth, panic erupted. Emergency sirens wailed across every continent as governments scrambled to respond to this unprecedented event. Military forces worldwide were put on high alert, though many wondered what good their weapons would do against such an overwhelming alien presence. In the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, world leaders gathered in a frenzy of activity. Amidst the chaos, a calm voice cut through the din. "We're receiving a transmission," announced the communications officer, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. A holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the chamber, revealing a being unlike anything humans had ever seen. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but with iridescent, scale-like skin and multiple sets of eyes that blinked in unsettling patterns. When it spoke, its voice resonated with a strange harmony, as if multiple entities were speaking in perfect unison. "People of Earth," the alien began, its tone a mixture of condescension and false benevolence. "We are the Galactic Council, a coalition of the most advanced civilizations in this sector of the galaxy. For centuries, we have observed your species' development with great interest and growing concern." The being paused, its multiple eyes scanning the room as if gauging the reactions of Earth's leaders. "Your rapid technological advancement, coupled with your species' inherent aggression, poses a potential threat to the delicate balance we have maintained in this region of space. Therefore, we have come to offer you a choice." The tension in the room was palpable as the alien continued. "Join the Concordat. Submit to our guidance and governance. In return, we will share our knowledge and technology, elevating your species to new heights. Refuse, and we will have no choice but to neutralize the threat you pose." The hologram flickered off, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. It was the President of the United States who finally broke the quiet. "They're giving us an ultimatum," she said, her voice tight with anger. "Submit or be destroyed." Debates erupted immediately. Some argued for immediate surrender, citing the clear technological superiority of the aliens. Others called for defiance, unwilling to give up humanity's hard-won independence. As the arguments raged, a young diplomat from a small African nation stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Have we already forgotten who we are?" she asked, her eyes blazing with determination. "Throughout our history, humanity has faced seemingly insurmountable odds. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars. We've split the atom, walked on the moon, and begun to unravel the mysteries of our own DNA. And now, at our first encounter with alien life, we consider surrendering without a fight." Her words seemed to awaken something in the assembled leaders. The Chinese premier nodded slowly. "She's right. We cannot simply roll over and submit. But how can we hope to stand against such advanced technology?" It was at this moment that Dr. Ilara Vance, head of the Global Defense Initiative, stepped forward. "We may not have their level of technology," she said, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "But we have something they might not expect: diversity of thought and the ability to adapt rapidly." Dr. Vance activated a holographic display of her own, showcasing various defense systems and experimental technologies. "We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. Our quantum entanglement communication network can't be jammed or intercepted. We have prototype energy shields based on manipulating gravitational fields, and our AI-driven battle simulations have given us strategies for fighting technologically superior foes." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't as defenseless as they had initially feared. The President of Russia spoke up, his voice gruff but determined. "We may not be able to match them ship for ship, but we can make any attempt to subjugate Earth so costly that they'll have to reconsider their ultimatum." As the leaders began to nod in agreement, The UN Secretary-General raised his hand for silence. Before we commit to a course of action that could lead to war, he said, we should at least attempt diplomacy. Perhaps we can negotiate terms that don't require our complete submission. The proposal was met with murmurs of agreement. A delegation was quickly assembled, composed of diplomats, scientists, and military advisors from various nations. They would attempt to open a dialogue with the Galactic Concordat, while Earth's defenses were mobilized in secret. As the delegation prepared to make contact with the alien fleet, Dr. Vance pulled aside Jessica Chen, a brilliant young xenolinguist chosen to be part of the team. Remember, Vance said, her eyes intense, every word, every gesture could be crucial. We need to understand their motivations, their culture. Look for weaknesses, inconsistencies in their unity. And above all, buy us time. Chen nodded, the weight of her responsibility clear in her expression. As the delegation boarded the shuttle that would take them to the alien flagship, she couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. This was first contact, a moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. But it had come with the threat of annihilation. The journey to the alien flagship was surreal. As they approached, the true scale of the alien vessels became apparent. The flagship alone was the size of a small city, its surface a mesmerizing pattern of lights and geometric shapes that seemed to defy human understanding of engineering. As they docked, Chen took a deep breath, centering herself. She had trained for years for a moment like this, developing protocols for communicating with entirely alien minds. But all the training in the world couldn't fully prepare her for the reality of standing face to face with beings from another world. The interior of the ship was a marvel of biomechanical engineering. Surfaces that looked metallic pulsed with an inner light, and corridors seemed to shift and rearrange themselves as they walked. Their alien escorts, tall, graceful beings with the same iridescent skin as the hologram, led them to what appeared to be a grand conference room. The being that had delivered the ultimatum was waiting for them. Up close, its alien nature was even more apparent. What had looked like scales on its skin were actually complex patterns of bioluminescent cells, shifting and changing in hypnotic patterns. "Welcome, humans," the alien said, its harmonic voice sending shivers down Chen's spine. "I am Zoraxis, High Arbiter of the Galactic Concordat. We are pleased that you have chosen to engage in dialogue." Chen stepped forward, bowing slightly in a gesture of respect. "High Arbiter Zoraxis," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We thank you for this opportunity. We come seeking understanding and hoping to find a peaceful resolution that respects the sovereignty and dignity of both our peoples." Zoraxis's multiple eyes blinked in a complex pattern. Sovereignty, dignity. The harmonic voice held a note of what might have been amusement. "You speak as if your species is our equal. You must understand, in the grand tapestry of the galaxy, you are but infants. Your sovereignty is an illusion we have allowed you to maintain until now." The human delegation exchanged glances, but Chen pressed on. "With respect, High Arbiter, our history is filled with instances of technologically superior forces underestimating those they sought to subjugate. We are not here to submit, but to find a way for our species to coexist peacefully." Zoraxis's bioluminescent patterns flared briefly. "Coexist. You misunderstand the nature of this meeting. This is not a negotiation. It is an opportunity for you to accept the inevitable with grace." As the conversation continued, it became increasingly clear that the Concordat had no intention of compromising. They viewed humanity as a potential threat to be contained, a wild variable in their carefully ordered galactic society. Hours passed, and despite Chen's best efforts, the diplomatic mission seemed to be going nowhere. The aliens were immovable in their position, dismissive of human achievements and concerns. As frustration mounted among the human delegation, Chen noticed something curious. Whenever they presented a logical argument or an emotional appeal that seemed to resonate, Zoraxis would pause, its bioluminescent patterns shifting rapidly as if in internal communication. It was during one of these pauses that Chen had a sudden realization. The harmonic voice, the synchronized movements, the rapid color changes, they weren't just communicating with one entity. The High Arbiter was likely a collective consciousness, a fusion of multiple beings making decisions as one. As the humans were ushered out, their mission a seeming failure, Chen whispered her observations to the head of the delegation. This information could be crucial. If the Concordat was indeed a collective, it might have weaknesses that a more individualistic species like humanity could exploit. Back on Earth, the news of the failed diplomacy was met with a mix of despair and determination. World leaders convened once again, this time with a grim resolve. Humanity would not submit. They would stand against the Galactic Concordat, no matter the odds. As military forces worldwide went on high alert and civilians began preparing for the worst, Dr. Vance and her team worked tirelessly to analyze the data gathered from the diplomatic mission. Chen's insights into the nature of the Concordat's consciousness proved invaluable, sparking new ideas for potential defensive and offensive strategies. In labs and workshops around the world, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of human technology. Quantum computers crunched vast amounts of data, running simulations and developing new algorithms for space warfare. Experimental weapons designed to disrupt the biomechanical technology of the alien ships were rushed into production. And in orbit, humanity's fledgling space fleet, a collection of hastily armed satellites, space stations, and prototype warships, prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of their species. They were outgunned and outnumbered, facing an enemy with technology centuries ahead of their own. But they had something the Concordat didn't expect: the unbreakable human spirit and the absolute refusal to submit. As the deadline set by the Galactic Concordat approached, a tense calm settled over the Earth. In homes, schools, and public spaces, people huddled around screens, waiting for news. World leaders broadcast messages of unity and defiance, reminding humanity of all they had overcome in the past and all they stood to lose if they surrendered. In the UN Emergency Council chamber, now transformed into a global command center, the President of the United States stood before the assembled leaders of Earth. Her voice was steady as she addressed not just those in the room, but the billions watching around the world. Today, we face the greatest challenge in human history, she began. An alien force has come to our world, demanding our submission. They believe that their advanced technology and vast fleet make our defeat inevitable. They expect us to cower, to give up our freedom without a fight. She paused, her eyes blazing with determination. But they have gravely misunderstood humanity. We are not a species that submits. We are not a people who surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. Throughout our history, we have faced extinction-level threats, from ice ages to plagues to our own destructive capabilities. Each time, we have emerged stronger, more united, more determined. The chamber was silent, every eye fixed on the President as she continued. The Galactic Concordat thinks they know us because they have observed us from afar, but they have failed to grasp the essence of what makes us human. Our strength lies not in our technology, but in our spirit, in our creativity, our adaptability, our unwavering will to survive and thrive. She gestured to the screens showing the alien fleet looming above the Earth. Yes, their ships are vast. Their weapons are powerful, but we have something they can't comprehend: the power of billions of individual minds working together, each contributing their unique perspectives and ideas. We have our diversity, our ability to think outside the box, our capacity for self-sacrifice in the name of a greater good. The President's voice rose, filled with passion and conviction. So let this be our answer to the Galactic Concordat's ultimatum. Humanity does not surrender. We will not submit. We will stand and fight, not just for our own survival, but for the right of all sentient beings to live free from tyranny and oppression. As cheers erupted in the chamber and around the world, the first reports came in. The Concordat fleet was moving, taking up attack positions around the Earth. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. In orbit, aboard the hastily assembled human defense fleet, commanders gave their final orders. On the ground, missile crews and energy weapon operators stood ready. And in secret bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface, Dr. Vance and her team prepared to unleash technological surprises that they hoped would give humanity a fighting chance. As the first shots of the battle lit up the sky, one thing became clear. The Galactic Concordat had made a grave error in their assessment of humanity. They had expected submission and found defiance. They had anticipated fear and encountered courage. They had come to subjugate a primitive species and instead awakened a sleeping giant. The war for Earth had begun, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy that they would never surrender. First contact, first blood. The silence of space shattered as the Galactic Concordat's fleet opened fire. Beams of energy, far more powerful than anything humanity had ever witnessed, lanced towards Earth's orbital defenses. The alien ships moved with a fluid grace that belied their massive size, their formations shifting like schools of fish as they advanced. Aboard the UNS Defiant, the flagship of Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet, Admiral Sarah Chen gritted her teeth. She was the younger sister of Jessica Chen, the xenolinguist who had faced the aliens in the failed diplomatic mission. Now it was her turn to face the Concordat, not with words, but with the full might of Earth's military power. All ships, execute maneuver Theta, she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around her. Activate quantum shields and prepare to return fire. As the alien energy beams approached, humanity revealed its first surprise. The quantum shields, based on technology reverse-engineered from fragments of alien tech recovered over the years, flickered to life. The devastating alien fire splashed against them, much of its energy dissipating harmlessly into subspace. The Concordat ships seemed to pause, their attack faltering for a moment as if in surprise. Admiral Chen allowed herself a grim smile. They didn't expect that, she muttered. All ships, concentrate fire on target Alpha. Let's show them what we can do. Earth's fleet responded with a coordinated barrage. Missiles streaked across space, their warheads containing experimental antimatter payloads. Railguns fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, and from secret orbital platforms, gravity lances, weapons that distorted space-time itself, fired upon the alien vessels. The effect was devastating. Several Concordat ships, caught off guard by the unexpected level of human technology, erupted in silent explosions. Others listed in space, their biomechanical systems disrupted by the gravity weapons. On the Concordat flagship, High Arbiter Zoraxis watched in disbelief as the battle unfolded. The harmonic voice of the collective consciousness was discordant for the first time in centuries. Impossible, Zoraxis said, multiple eyes blinking rapidly. Their technology, they should not be capable of this. One of the subminds within the collective spoke up. We may have underestimated their rate of advancement, and their tactical capabilities are unpredictable. Indeed, the human fleet was fighting with a ferocity and ingenuity that the Concordat had never encountered. Smaller Earth ships darted between the lumbering alien vessels, exploiting blind spots in their defenses. Every time the Concordat adapted to a human tactic, the Earth forces would switch to something entirely new. Back on Earth, in the underground command center, Dr. Ilara Vance watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and concern. The quantum shields were holding better than expected, and the gravity lances were proving highly effective. But the Concordat's superior numbers were beginning to tell. We need to buy more time, she said to the assembled world leaders. Our second wave of defenses isn't ready yet. The president nodded grimly. What do you suggest, Doctor? Vance took a deep breath. We activate Project Lazarus. There were gasps around the room. Project Lazarus was highly experimental and potentially dangerous. It involved using Earth's most powerful particle accelerators as weapons, creating localized areas of distorted space-time that could potentially swallow entire ships. The risks. The Chinese premier began, but Vance cut him off. "Are less than the risk of losing this war," she said firmly. "We knew this might come to desperate measures. We have to trust our people up there." After a tense moment, the world leaders nodded their assent. Orders were quickly relayed to facilities around the globe. In orbit, the battle raged on. Despite their initial successes, the human fleet was taking heavy losses. The Concordat, recovering from their initial shock, were pressing their numerical advantage. Admiral Chen wiped sweat from her brow as another nearby ship exploded. "We can't keep this up forever," she muttered. Then her communications officer called out, "Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Authorization to proceed with Operation Sunburst." Chen's eyes widened. She knew what that meant. "All ships, fall back to secondary defensive positions," she ordered. "Prepare for extreme gravitational disturbances." As the Earth fleet retreated, the Concordat pressed forward, sensing victory. That's when it happened. At strategic points around the globe, particle accelerators powered up to levels never before attempted. They fired in perfect synchronization, their beams meeting in space. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Space itself seemed to warp and twist. Concordat ships caught in the effect were stretched and distorted, some seemingly folding in on themselves before vanishing entirely. Others were flung off course, their biomechanical systems unable to cope with the extreme gravitational forces. For a moment, all combat ceased as both sides grappled with what had just occurred. The Concordat fleet, for the first time, showed signs of disarray. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command center. But Dr. Vance remained focused on her screens. "It worked," she said, "but we've likely only got one or two more shots like that. The accelerators can't handle that kind of strain for long." In space, Admiral Chen seized the moment. "All ships, attack pattern Omega. Concentrate fire on their flagship." The human fleet surged forward, taking advantage of the Concordat's confusion. Missiles and energy weapons found their marks with deadly accuracy. The Concordat flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest human vessels, shuddered under the assault. Aboard the alien ship, High Arbiter Zaraxis struggled to maintain control. The collective consciousness was in turmoil, individual minds clamoring for attention. "We must retreat," one voice insisted. "Impossible. We cannot show weakness," another countered. "Their weapons, they defy our understanding of physics," a third added. As the debate raged within the collective, the human assault continued. Cracks began to appear in the flagship's hull, strange energies pulsing from within. Admiral Chen watched with fierce determination. "Keep up the pressure," she ordered. "We've got them on the ropes." But the Concordat was far from defeated. As if coming to a sudden decision, their entire fleet began to move in perfect unison. Ships locked together, forming massive geometric patterns. "What are they doing?" Chen wondered aloud. Her answer came moments later as the combined Concordat fleet unleashed a weapon of terrifying power. A wave of energy, like a ripple in the fabric of space-time itself, expanded outward. "Brace for impact," Chen shouted, but it was too late. The wave washed over the human fleet. Ships spun out of control, their systems overloaded. The quantum shields flickered and died. On Earth, power grids fluctuated wildly, and satellites fell from the sky. In the command center, screens went dark. When they came back online, the situation looked grim. Half the human fleet was disabled or destroyed. The particle accelerators were burned out, incapable of another attack. "My God," the president whispered. "Is this it? Have we lost?" Dr. Vance stared at the screens, her mind racing. Then, slowly, she shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "Look closer." As the dust settled, it became clear that the Concordat's massive attack had come at a great cost. Their ships, once pristine and elegant, now showed signs of severe strain. The biomechanical technology that powered them seemed to be breaking down. "They'd overextended themselves," Vance explained. That attack, it must have pushed their systems to the breaking point. Indeed, the Concordat fleet was in disarray. Ships drifted aimlessly, their lights flickering. The flagship, once an imposing symbol of alien might, now leaked strange energies into space. Admiral Chen, her own ship battered but still functional, saw the opportunity. "All remaining ships," she broadcast, "give them everything we've got left." For Earth, the battered human fleet rallied, pressing their attack with renewed vigor. Concordat ships, their defenses weakened, fell one by one. On the alien flagship, High Arbiter Zoraxis watched in disbelief as the tide of battle turned. The collective consciousness was fragmenting, individual minds reeling in shock and fear. How? Zoraxis wondered aloud. How can they still fight? Their fleet is in ruins, their planet damaged. By all logic, they should surrender. But surrender was a concept alien to the human spirit. Even as their ships burned and their cities lay in darkness, humanity fought on. Civilian spacecraft, hastily armed, joined the battle. Ground-based weapons fired ceaselessly into the sky. As the Concordat fleet crumbled under the relentless human assault, Zoraxis made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. All ships, the High Arbiter commanded, harmonic voice wavering, disengage and retreat. We must reassess. The order sent shockwaves through the Concordat forces. Retreat was almost unheard of in their long history of galactic dominance. But as human weapons continued to find their marks, the alien ships had no choice but to comply. One by one, the massive Concordat vessels vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a debris field that would serve as a testament to the battle for generations to come. On the bridge of the UNS Defiant, Admiral Chen watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet disappeared. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, cheers began to erupt. First on her ship, then across the entire fleet, and finally on Earth itself as news of the victory spread. But Chen didn't cheer. She knew this was only the beginning. The Concordat had retreated, but they would be back. And next time, they wouldn't underestimate humanity. In the Earth Command Center, world leaders embraced, tears of joy and relief flowing freely. But Dr. Vance shared Chen's cautious view. "We've won the battle," she said quietly, "but the war has only just begun." The president nodded solemnly. "Then we better be ready," she said. "Humanity has shown what it's capable of when united against a common threat. We need to keep that unity, that spirit of innovation and determination." As the cheers continued around them, plans were already being made. Earth would need to rebuild, to advance, to prepare. The Galactic Concordat had learned a harsh lesson about humanity's resolve. But humanity, too, had learned something vital about itself. In the face of annihilation, they had stood firm. Against overwhelming odds, they had prevailed. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but one thing was certain. Humanity would face it head-on, unbowed and unbroken. The stars, once a distant dream, now represented both a promise and a challenge. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and they had done so not with open arms, but with clenched fists. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Siege of Luna. In the months following humanity's unexpected victory against the Galactic Concordat, Earth had changed dramatically. The once pristine cities now bore the scars of orbital bombardment, while vast swathes of land had been repurposed for military production and scientific research. The night sky, once a canvas of stars, was now crisscrossed with the trails of patrol ships and the glint of orbital defense platforms. But nowhere was the transformation more evident than on Earth's moon, Luna. Once a desolate landscape of craters and dust, Luna had become humanity's frontline fortress. Vast underground complexes housed soldiers, scientists, and civilians alike. The surface was dotted with defense turrets, sensor arrays, and hangar bays for Earth's growing fleet of spacecraft. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at a viewpoint in the Copernicus base, the largest of Luna's installations. Through the reinforced glass, She could see Earth hanging in the void, beautiful and fragile. She remembered the day, not so long ago, when she had been a civilian engineer, more concerned with improving solar panel efficiency than defending against alien invasions. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Elena turned to see Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead scientist of Project Phoenix, Luna's most secretive research initiative. Elena nodded. "Sometimes I still can't believe we're here, that all this is real." Yuki's expression was grim. "It's about to get a lot more real. Our long-range sensors have picked up concordat signatures. They're coming back, and in much greater numbers." Elena's hand instinctively went to the hilt of her sidearm, a habit she'd developed since the first invasion. "How long do we have?" "A week, maybe less," Yuki replied. "We're accelerating the final tests on Project Phoenix." But she was cut off by the sudden blare of alarms. Red lights flashed throughout the base, and a computerized voice echoed through the corridors. "Alert! Unidentified spatial anomalies detected. All personnel to battle stations." "This is not a drill." Elena and Yuki exchanged a look of shock. "A week," Elena said, already sprinting towards the command center. "Try now." In orbit around Jupiter, hidden from Earth's sensors by the gas giant's powerful magnetic field, a massive concordat fleet shimmered into existence. At its center was a ship that dwarfed even the massive flagship from the previous battle. This was the Harbinger, personal vessel of the concordat's supreme overseer. On its bridge, High Arbiter Zoraxis stood before the supreme overseer, a being of pure energy contained within a complex biomechanical suit. The overseer's voice was like thunder, shaking the very atoms of the air. "Explain to me, Zoraxis," the overseer boomed, "how a species barely out of its cradle managed to defeat our invasion force." Zoraxis's bioluminescent patterns flickered nervously. "Supreme Overseer, the humans, they are unlike any species we have encountered. Their technology advanced at an unprecedented rate. Their tactics were unpredictable, their resolve unbreakable." The Overseer's energy form pulsed with what might have been anger. "And you retreated. You showed weakness before these primitives." "With respect, Overseer," Zoraxis countered, finding a measure of courage. "Retreating allowed us to regroup, to bring this larger force. The humans exhausted much of their resources in the first battle. They cannot hope to stand against us now." The Overseer was silent for a moment, its energy form swirling in contemplation. "Perhaps," it finally said, "but we will take no chances this time. We will crush their spirit utterly." Starting with that, a holographic display flickered to life, showing Luna and its fortifications. "Their moon base," the Overseer continued, "a symbol of their defiance. Destroy it, and their will to resist will crumble." Back on Luna, the command center was a flurry of activity. Elena stood before a holographic display of the solar system, watching with growing dread as the concordat fleet approached. "How did they get so close without us detecting them?" she demanded. A young sensor operator spoke up, his voice shaky. "They seem to have developed some kind of cloaking technology, Commander. We only detected them when they began their acceleration towards us." Elena's mind raced. They had expected more time. Time to finish their preparations, to test their new weapons. Now that they would have to face the full might of the concordat with what they had. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "We need every ship, every weapon we've got. And get me Dr. Tanaka. If there was ever a time for Project Phoenix to work, it's now." As the orders were relayed, Elena couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. The concordat fleet was larger than anything they had faced before, with ships of designs they had never seen. This wasn't just a second invasion attempt. This was the concordat bringing its full might to bear, determined to crush humanity once and for all. In the following hours, Luna became a hive of frantic activity. Civilians were evacuated to the deepest, most secure bunkers. Soldiers manned their stations, weapons primed and ready. In hidden hangars, Pilots climbed into their fighters, a mix of refurbished Earth vessels and new crafts built with reverse-engineered Concordat technology. Dr. Tanaka and her team worked feverishly in their lab, making last-minute adjustments to Project Phoenix. The project, a combination of advanced AI and quantum technology, was designed to interface directly with human minds, allowing for unprecedented control of both weapons and spacecraft. It was highly experimental and not without risks, but they were out of options. As the Concordat fleet entered the Earth-Moon system, humanity's defenses sprang to life. Orbital platforms fired salvos of gravity lenses and antimatter warheads. The reinstated particle accelerators, now with improved cooling systems, fired beams that distorted spacetime itself. But the Concordat was prepared this time. Their ships moved in complex, ever-shifting formations, presenting no clear targets. Energy shields of incredible power absorbed or deflected much of Earth's fire. And then, they returned fire. Beams of coherent light, each powerful enough to vaporize a city, lanced out from the Concordat ships. They struck Luna's surface with devastating effect, turning vast areas into molten slag. Defensive turrets exploded, sensor arrays melted, and the very regolith of the moon was turned to glass. In the Copernicus Base Command Center, Elena struggled to maintain order as reports of damage flooded in. Concentrate all fire on their lid ships. She shouted over the din of alarms and panicked voices. We need to thin their numbers. But for every Concordat ship they managed to damage or destroy, it seemed two more took its place. The aliens pressed their attack relentlessly, their weapons tearing through Luna's defenses like paper. In her lab, Dr. Tanaka made a decision. We're out of time, she said to her team. Initiate Project Phoenix. Full deployment. Across Luna's bases, specially trained soldiers and pilots received the activation signal. They donned neural interface helmets, linking their minds directly to their weapons and ships. For a moment, there was silence as human consciousness merged with machine intelligence. Then, everything changed. Defensive turrets that had been firing wildly suddenly acquired an uncanny accuracy, picking off Concordat ships with surgical precision. Earth fighters, once clumsy in comparison to the alien vessels, now moved with impossible grace and speed. Elena watched in awe as the tide of battle seemed to turn. Project Phoenix was working beyond their wildest expectations, but she knew it came at a cost. The neural interfaces put immense strain on the human mind. They couldn't keep this up forever. Aboard the Harbinger, the Supreme Overseer watched the battle with growing frustration. What is happening? It demanded. How are they suddenly matching our capabilities? Zoraxis, monitoring the battle data, replied with a note of concern in its harmonic voice. They've implemented some kind of neural interface technology. Their reaction times, their coordination, it's as if their machines have become extensions of their bodies. The Overseer's energy form pulsed angrily. Impossible. No organic mind could withstand such a connection. But the evidence was undeniable. The humans were not just holding their ground. They were pushing back. Concordat ships, once seemingly invincible, were being picked apart by the heightened abilities of the Phoenix-enhanced human forces. As the battle raged on, it became clear that this would not be the quick, decisive victory the Concordat had envisioned. Luna, despite its heavy damage, stood defiant. Its defenders, their minds merged with their machines, fought with a ferocity and skill that shocked even the most seasoned Concordat warriors. But the cost was high. With each passing hour, more Phoenix operators fell, their minds unable to withstand the prolonged neural connection. The moon's surface was a patchwork of destruction, with entire bases reduced to rubble. In the command center, now relocated to a deep underground bunker, Elena received a transmission from Earth. It was Admiral Chen, her face grim but determined. Commander Rodriguez, Chen said, her voice crackling with interference, you've done an incredible job holding them off. But we can't let them focus all their attention on Luna. We're launching a counterattack from Earth. Hold out as long as you can. Elena nodded, understanding the unspoken message. They were a distraction, buying time for Earth to mount its defense. "We'll give them hell, Admiral," she replied. As she ended the transmission, Alina turned to her staff. Despite the chaos, despite the losses, she saw no fear in their eyes, only determination. "You heard the Admiral," she said. "Let's show these aliens what Luna is made of." With renewed vigor, the defenders of Luna pressed their attack. Project Phoenix operators, knowing they were living on borrowed time, pushed their neural connections to the limit and beyond. Weapons fired with impossible accuracy, each shot finding a weak point in the Concordat's defenses. In space, the battle had devolved into a chaotic melee. Earth ships, arriving from the planet below, clashed with the Concordat fleet. The void was filled with weapons fire, explosions, and the silent screams of dying crews from both sides. Aboard the Harbinger, the Supreme Overseer watched in disbelief as its grand fleet was slowly but surely being whittled down. "This is unacceptable," it boomed. "Zoraxis, prepare the sundering beam. We will end this now." Zoraxis's bioluminescent patterns flashed in alarm. "But Overseer, the sundering beam has never been used on an inhabited world. The consequences are irrelevant." The Overseer cut in. "These humans have defied us for the last time. If we cannot have this system, then neither will they." As the Harbinger began to power up its ultimate weapon, a weapon capable of tearing a planet apart at the atomic level, alarms blared across human ships and bases. In the Luna Command Center, Dr. Tanaka burst in, her face pale. "Commander, we're detecting an energy buildup like nothing we've ever seen. If that weapon fires..." Elena understood. This was it. The moment that would decide not just the battle, but the fate of humanity. She took a deep breath, then opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Commander Rodriguez. The enemy is powering up a weapon of unimaginable power. We have one chance to stop them. All forces converge on the alien flagship. Give it everything you've got. For Earth, for Luna, for humanity." As one, the defenders of humanity turned their attention to the Harbinger. Ships on both sides clashed in a desperate battle around the massive vessel. On Luna, every operational weapon was brought to bear. In her lab, Dr. Tanaka made a fateful decision. "Disengage all safeties on Project Phoenix," she ordered. "Give the operators full access, whatever the cost." The effect was immediate and terrifying. Phoenix-enhanced soldiers and pilots pushed beyond all human limits. Ships moved in ways that defied physics. Weapons fired with reality-warping accuracy. But the human toll was devastating, as operators' minds burned out under the strain. Yet slowly, impossibly, they began to break through the Harbinger's defenses. On the flagship's bridge, alarms blared as systems failed under the relentless human assault. The Supreme Overseer, for the first time in its long existence, felt fear. "Fire the sundering beam," it commanded. "Fire it now." But it was too late. A combined barrage from Earth's gravity lances, Luna's remaining defense turrets, and a swarm of Phoenix-enhanced fighters struck the Harbinger's main weapon just as it was powering up. The resulting explosion was beyond anything either side had witnessed. A shockwave of unimaginable power rippled out, tearing apart Concordat and human ships alike. The Harbinger, the pride of the Concordat fleet, broke apart, its pieces scattering across space. As the light of the explosion faded, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. The remaining Concordat ships, leaderless and shocked by the destruction of their flagship, began to retreat. On Luna, in the battered command center, Elena stared at the tactical display in disbelief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had held the line. But the cost had been enormous. Luna's surface was forever changed, its bases in ruins. Thousands of lives had been lost, and those who had interfaced with Project Phoenix would bear the scars, both mental and physical, for the rest of their lives. As the realization of victory slowly sank in, Elena opened a channel to Earth. Her voice was hoarse, her words simple but heartfelt. "Earth, this is Luna. We stand firm. The enemy is in retreat. We did it. Cheers erupted across every human settlement, from the deepest bunkers on Luna to the streets of Earth's cities. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged battered but unbroken. But even as the celebrations began, Elena and those like her knew this was not the end. The Concordat had been defeated, but not destroyed. And out there in the vast, uncaring universe, who knew what other challenges awaited? For now, though, they had earned their moment of triumph. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. They had shown that they would not submit, would not surrender, no matter the odds. The siege of Luna was over, but humanity's journey to the stars, with all its perils and promises, was just beginning. Turning the tide. The aftermath of the siege of Luna marked a turning point in humanity's war against the Galactic Concordat. The once pristine lunar surface, now scarred and pockmarked from the intense battle, stood as a testament to both the ferocity of the alien assault and the indomitable human spirit. But even as humanity celebrated its hard-won victory, leaders on Earth and Luna knew that the war was far from over. In a secret facility deep beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood before a holographic display, her eyes darting between streams of data and schematics of alien technology. The remnants of the destroyed Concordat ships had provided a wealth of information, and humanity was determined to make the most of it. "Dr. Tanaka," a voice called out. She turned to see Commander Elena Rodriguez entering the lab, her uniform bearing the new insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. "How's our reverse engineering project coming along?" Yuki managed a tired smile. "We're making progress, Commander. The Concordat's technology is incredibly advanced, but we're starting to unravel some of its secrets." Elena nodded, her expression grim. "Good, because we've just received word from our deep space outposts. The Concordat is regrouping, and they're not happy about losing their flagship." The news hung heavy in the air. Both women knew that the next confrontation would likely determine the fate of humanity. They had to be ready. Over the next few months, Earth and its colonies became a hive of activity. The reverse-engineered Concordat technology was integrated into new weapon systems, shields, and propulsion units. Project Phoenix, despite its heavy toll on human operators, was refined and improved, allowing for safer and more efficient human-machine interfaces. But perhaps the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Jessica Chen, the xenolinguist who had first communicated with the Concordat, had been working tirelessly to decipher more of the alien language and culture from the data recovered during the battles. "It's not just a language," she explained to a room full of military and scientific leaders. "It's a way of thinking. The Concordat's collective consciousness, it's both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness." Her revelation led to the development of a new strategy. If humanity couldn't match the Concordat in pure military might, perhaps they could exploit the aliens' unified mind against them. As these preparations were underway, the Concordat was facing its own crisis. In a vast chamber aboard their new flagship, the Resurgence, the surviving members of the Concordat's leadership, were engaged in fierce debate. High Arbiter Zoraxis, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation, addressed the assembly. "We underestimated the humans once, and it cost us dearly. We cannot make the same mistake again." Another leader, Arbiter Xelforan, countered, "But we cannot simply destroy them. Their ability to adapt, to use our own technology against us, it could be invaluable if harnessed properly." The debate raged on, the collective consciousness of the Concordat uncharacteristically divided. Some argued for complete annihilation of the human race, while others saw potential in subjugation and assimilation. Finally, a new voice cut through the chaos. A being of swirling energy materialized in the center of the chamber, the avatar of the Concordat's AI core, the closest thing they had to a supreme leader. "This division weakens us," the avatar intoned, its voice resonating through the minds of all present. "The humans have shown themselves to be more than mere primitives. They are a threat, yes, but also an opportunity. We will subdue them, break their will, and add their biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. The pronouncement sent ripples of agreement through the assembled leaders. The course was set. The Concordat would launch a final, overwhelming assault on humanity, with the goal of not just victory, but total domination. Back on Earth, the United Earth Defense Force was making final preparations for the coming storm. In orbit, a new fleet of ships stood ready, incorporating the best of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Concordat technology. Aboard the flagship, christened the UES Defiant, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, surveying her fleet. Beside her, her sister Jessica waited nervously, ready to put her linguistic and cultural insights to the test. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her XO announced. Sarah nodded, her face set with determination. "Then it's time. We take the fight to them." With a command from Admiral Chen, the human fleet engaged their newly developed faster-than-light drives, tearing holes in the fabric of space as they set course for the heart of Concordat space. The journey was fraught with tension. Every crew member knew that they were likely flying to their deaths, but also that the fate of their entire species hung in the balance. As they traveled, final preparations were made. Weapons were checked and rechecked, shields were calibrated, and the Phoenix interface operators underwent their final synchronization procedures. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they arrived at their destination, a massive Concordat shipyard, where the alien fleet was still licking its wounds from the Battle of Luna. "All ships, battle stations," Admiral Chen's voice rang out across the fleet. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today, we show the Concordat that humanity will never submit." The ensuing battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships, empowered by reverse-engineered technology and Phoenix-enhanced crews, darted between the lumbering Concordat vessels with impossible agility. Weapons fire crisscrossed the void, turning the darkness of space into a deadly light show. But the Concordat was prepared this time. Their ships moved with a newfound coordination, their weapons more devastating than ever. It quickly became clear that despite humanity's advancements, they were still outgunned and outnumbered. As the battle raged, Dr. Jessica Chen worked feverishly at her station on the UES Defiant. She had developed a plan, a desperate gambit that could turn the tide of not just this battle, but the entire war. "Admiral," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around her, "I'm ready to implement Protocol Babel." Admiral Chen hesitated for just a moment. Protocol Babel was risky, untested, but they were running out of options. "Do it," she ordered. Jessica took a deep breath and activated the system she and her team had developed. It was a combination of advanced AI algorithms and the cultural insights she had gleaned from studying the Concordat. The system began broadcasting on all frequencies, directly into the Concordat's communication networks. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the Concordat's fleet began to show signs of confusion. Ships started moving erratically, their formations breaking down. Aboard the Resurgence, Zoraxis and the other leaders reeled as their collective consciousness was assaulted by a cacophony of contradictory thoughts and emotions. The avatar of the AI core flickered and distorted, unable to maintain cohesion. What is happening?" Zoraxis managed to articulate, its harmonic voice discordant and strained. The answer came from an unexpected source. A holographic projection of Dr. Jessica Chen appeared in their command center, her expression a mixture of determination and empathy. "We studied your language, your culture, your very way of thinking," she explained, "and we found its flaw. Your strength comes from unity, but that unity is built on the suppression of individual thought, of diversity." As she spoke, the broadcast continued its work, introducing concepts that the Concordat had long suppressed. Ideas of individuality, of personal choice, of the strength that comes from diversity of thought and experience. "Humanity's greatest strength," Jessica continued, "is not our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to disagree, to debate, to see things from different perspectives. And now we're sharing that strength with you. The effect on the Concordat was profound. For the first time in millennia, individual minds within the collective began to assert themselves. The carefully maintained unity of thought began to fracture, replaced by a cacophony of individual voices and ideas. In space, the battle had ground to a halt. Concordat ships hung motionless, their crews too caught up in their internal struggles to continue the fight. The human fleet, while battered, stood firm, watching and waiting. Aboard the Defiant, Admiral Chen turned to her sister. "Is this it? Have we won?" Jessica shook her head. "This isn't about winning or losing anymore. We've given them a choice. Now, we wait to see what they do with it." Hours passed as the Concordat grappled with this new reality. Debates raged across their fleet, discussions that had been suppressed for countless generations finally bubbling to the surface. Finally, a transmission was received from the Resurgence. The face that appeared on the screen was Zoraxis, but changed. Its bioluminescent patterns were erratic, its multiple eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern. "Humans," it began, its once harmonic voice, now a single uncertain tone. I'd request a ceasefire. There is much we need to discuss." Admiral Chen looked to her sister, who nodded in confirmation. "We accept," the Admiral replied. "Let's talk." As the human and Concordat representatives began their discussions, a new chapter in galactic history was being written. The war that had pushed humanity to its limits, that had threatened to end their species, was over. But the challenges that lay ahead, helping the Concordat transition to a new way of existence, integrating their technologies, establishing a lasting peace, were just beginning. Yet as Admiral Chen looked out at the stars, she felt a sense of hope. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the course of an entire civilization. They had turned the tide not through force alone, but through understanding, innovation, and an unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals, ready to face whatever new challenges the universe might throw their way. A new understanding. 5 years had passed since the fateful battle that ended the war between humanity and the Galactic Concordat. The scars of conflict were still visible, on Earth, on Luna, and across the stars, but they were gradually being overshadowed by the signs of progress and cooperation. On a space station orbiting a neutral planet, representatives from Earth and the former Concordat gathered for a historic summit. The station, aptly named Unity, was a marvel of joint human and alien engineering, symbolizing the new era of collaboration between the once warring species. Admiral Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the galactic community, stood before a large viewports, watching as ships from various species docked at the station. The diversity of designs and technologies on display still amazed her, a testament to how much the galaxy had changed in such a short time. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see her sister, Dr. Jessica Chen, approaching with a smile. "It still feels surreal sometimes," Sarah admitted. "To think, just a few years ago, we were fighting for our very existence. And now," Jessica nodded, understanding the unspoken sentiment. "And now we're helping to reshape galactic society. It's a big responsibility." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Zoraxis, the former High Arbiter of the Concordat, now serving as the representative of the Concordat Reformation movement. Its bioluminescent patterns, once rigidly controlled, now shifted in a more organic, individualistic manner. "Ambassador Chen, Dr. Chen," Zoraxis greeted them, its voice no longer the perfect harmony it once was, but a single, unique tone. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Sarah smiled warmly. "Not at all, Zoraxis. We were just reflecting on how far we've all come." Zoraxis' patterns flickered in what the humans had come to recognize as a sign of agreement. "Indeed, the journey has not been easy, but I believe it has been worthwhile." The three of them turned to look out at the stars, each lost in their own thoughts about the path that had led them here. The years following the end of the war had been tumultuous for both humanity and the former Concordat. The introduction of individualistic thinking had sent shockwaves through Concordat society, leading to a period of intense soul-searching and restructuring. Some factions had resisted the change, clinging to the old ways of collective consciousness. Others had embraced individuality with almost reckless abandon. It had taken years of patient diplomacy, cultural exchange, and mutual learning to find a balance. Humanity, for its part, had faced its own challenges. The influx of advanced alien technology had accelerated human progress at a dizzying rate, but it had also raised difficult questions about the responsible use of such power. The scars left by Project Phoenix serve as a constant reminder of the potential dangers of pushing technology too far, too fast. Yet through it all, both species had persevered, driven by a shared vision of a better future. The Concordat had learned to value diversity of thought and the strength that comes from individual perspectives. Humanity had gained a deeper appreciation for unity of purpose and the benefits of collective action. As they stood there, watching the bustle of activity in the space around Unity Station, a small alarm chimed, reminding them of the impending summit. "We should head to the conference room," Sarah said. "The other representatives will be arriving soon." As they made their way through the station's corridors, they passed humans and former Concordat members working side by side, along with representatives from other alien species who had been drawn to this new center of galactic cooperation. The conference room was a large, circular chamber with a holographic display at its center. As the representatives took their seats, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the diversity present. There were humans of all ethnicities, former Concordat members with varying bioluminescent patterns, and a smattering of other alien species who had joined the growing alliance. As the last of the attendees settled in, Sarah stepped up to the podium to open the summit. She took a moment to look around the room, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of each representative. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "5 years ago, our species stood on the brink of mutual annihilation. Today, we gather not as enemies, not even merely as allies, but as partners in shaping the future of our galaxy." She gestured to the holographic display, which came to life with images of joint human Concordat projects, new colonies being established, advanced ships being constructed, revolutionary scientific discoveries being made. "We have achieved so much together," Sarah continued, "but our work is far from over. Today, we face new challenges. The power we now wield comes with great responsibility. We must ensure that in our pursuit of progress, we do not lose sight of the values that brought us here: mutual respect, the celebration of diversity, and the unwavering belief that we are stronger together than apart." As Sarah spoke, Jessica couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had led them to this point. She remembered the terror of the first Concordat invasion, the desperation of the siege of Luna, the gamble of Protocol Babel. Each step had been fraught with danger, each victory balanced on a knife's edge. But it was what came after the fighting that had truly tested them all. Building trust between former enemies, navigating the complex waters of cultural exchange, finding ways to blend vastly different technologies and philosophies. These were challenges that couldn't be solved with weapons or clever tactics. It had taken patience, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to understanding one another. There had been setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments when it seemed like the fragile peace might shatter. But each time, they had found a way forward, guided by the shared belief that what they were building was worth the effort. As Sarah concluded her opening remarks, the delegates burst into applause. The summit was officially underway, and with it, the next chapter in this unprecedented galactic collaboration. Over the next several days, the representatives tackled a wide range of issues. They discussed the ethical implications of spreading advanced technology to less developed worlds, They debated the best ways to maintain peace in a galaxy still coming to terms with the fall of the old Concordat order. They explored new frontiers in science, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible when human ingenuity combined with Concordat knowledge. Throughout it all, the spirit of cooperation that had brought them together continued to shine. When disagreements arose, they were handled with respect and a genuine desire to understand different viewpoints. The humans' knack for thinking outside the box complemented the former Concordat members' vast store of knowledge and experience. As the summit drew to a close, one final item remained on the agenda. Zoraxis stood to address the assembly, its bioluminescent patterns shifting in a way that the humans had come to recognize as indicating deep emotion. "My friends," it began, "when we first encountered humanity, we saw them as a threat to be eliminated or subjugated. We could not have been more wrong. They have shown us that true strength lies not in uniformity, but in diversity, not in blind obedience, but in reasoned cooperation." Zoraxis paused, its multiple eyes scanning the room. The old Concordat sought to impose order on the galaxy, but humans have taught us that the most beautiful and resilient systems are those that arise naturally from the interaction of diverse elements. As we move forward, let us remember this lesson. Let us not seek to control the galaxy, but to nurture it, to allow each species and each individual to find their own path within the greater whole. The chamber erupted in applause, with humans and former Concordat members alike showing their approval. As the sound died down, Sarah stepped up to the podium one last time. "Thank you, Zoraxis," she said warmly. "Your words remind us all of how far we've come, and the promise of where we can go from here. As we conclude this summit, let us carry this spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding back to our respective worlds. The challenges ahead are great, but together, I believe there is nothing we cannot achieve." With a final round of applause, the summit came to an end. As the delegates began to file out, chatting excitedly about the plans and agreements that had been made, Sarah found herself once again standing with Jessica and Zoraxis by the viewport. "So," Jessica said with a smile, "what's next?" Sarah gazed out at the stars, her eyes bright with anticipation. "We've made a good start here, but there's still so much to do. New worlds to explore, new species to meet, new challenges to overcome." Zoraxis's patterns flickered in agreement, and we will face them together, as equals and as friends. As they stood there, looking out at the vast expanse of space, they felt a shared sense of hope and excitement. The galaxy was entering a new age, one shaped by the unlikely partnership between humanity and the former Concordat. It would not always be easy, and there would undoubtedly be obstacles along the way. But they had proven that even the most entrenched enemies could become allies, that understanding could triumph over fear, and that the indomitable human spirit, combined with the wisdom of the stars, could overcome any challenge. The future stretched out before them, vast and full of possibility, and they were ready to meet it, united in their diversity, strengthened by their differences, guided by the lessons of the past, but always looking forward to the promise of tomorrow. As Unity Station drifted serenely through space, it stood as a shining symbol of what could be achieved when different species came together in a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. The war that had nearly destroyed them both had instead forged a bond that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come. And somewhere out there, in the depths of space, new adventures awaited. New challenges to be faced, new wonders to be discovered, and new opportunities to show the galaxy what could be achieved when determination met understanding, when courage met wisdom, and when the unyielding human spirit joined forces with the vast knowledge of the cosmos. The story of humanity's stand against the Galactic Concordat was over, but their journey among the stars, that was just beginning.